to Mary, relentless rhythm. Yellow cabs navigated Manhattan's arteries, commuters surged through subway stations, and offices slowly filled with the murmur of voices, the shuffle of feet, the ring of telephones. All seemed utterly, reassuringly normal. No one could have imagined that, in mere moments, the world as they knew it would be irrevocably altered. At 8:46 in the morning, that fragile normalcy shattered. A deafening roar talummed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. The impact was catastrophic. A fireball erupted, engulfing the skyscraper. Shards of glass and metal rained down from the heavens. Thick black smoke began to billow high above the city. For a fleeting instant, confusion reigned. Those on the streets looked up, their faces etched with disbelief, struggling to comprehend what they were witnessing, imagining a terrible accident. Television cameras broadcasting live images captured the unfolding horror. A colossal structure ablaze, the very financial heart of America mortally wounded. Millions watched their screens, unable to tear their eyes away, clinging to the desperate hope that this was merely a tragic, inexplicable mistake. But 17 minutes later, all illusion was extinguished. At 9:03, a second aircraft, United Airlines Flight 175, tore into the South Tower. The explosion was D. This was no accident. This was an attack. Panic erupted. Streets transformed into scenes of chaos. People ran, blinded by smoke and dust, their gazes fixed upwards, a collective stunned incomprehension gripping the populace. The most powerful city in the world became a landscape of fear and eerie silence, punctuated only by the wail of sirens, the shouts of the bewildered, and the roar of the inferno consuming the towers. This morning, Cork stood paralyzed. Live television feeds showed the Tumub able to reconcile the images with reality, as if witnessing a horror film. But this time, there were no special effects, no script. Within those immense structures, thousands of men and women were trapped on the upper floors, their escape routes cut off. Many desperately descended stairwells choked by smoke. Others made frantic calls to loved ones on their cell phones, leaving messages that would become their final words. Some, in utter desperation, leaned out of windows, seeking air, searching for a sliver of hope. And for others, with no other recourse, the most terrible decision imaginable was made. The fall. A desperate leap into the void, a final agonizing escape from the inferno. These images, seared into the collective consciousness, marked the beginning of an unthinkable day. Around the collapsing towers, a city grappled with chaos. Firefighters, police officers, rescuers, they raced towards the unfolding disaster, acutely aware of the mortal peril. Men and women in uniform ascended stairwells burdened by hundreds of kilograms of gear, while below, a tide of humanity descended. They climbed against time, against an encroaching destiny, driven by an unwavering sense of duty and profound courage. But the nightmare was far from over. At precisely 9:37 in the morning, a third aircraft slammed into the Pentagon, the very heart of American defense. Another symbol, another icon of power struck. Another thunderous impact that reverberated across the globe, shaking the foundations of certainty. As the United States struggled to comprehend the scale of this coordinated assault, at 10 minutes past 10, a fourth plane plummeted into a field in Pennsylvania. It was United Airlines Flight 93. On board, passengers, realizing their grim fate, found an extraordinary strength. They fought back against their captors, a desperate act of defiance that ultimately diverted the plane from its intended target, averting another catastrophic massacre. Meanwhile, in New York City, time itself seemed to stand still. At 9:59, before the stunned eyes of the world, the South Tower gave way. The colossal structure of 110 stories dissolved in less than 10 seconds, unleashing a monstrous cloud of dust that consumed the streets of Manhattan. A gray avalanche, dense and suffocating, overwhelmed everything in its path. People, vehicles, entire city blocks. The sound was indescribable. A continued blindly, hands covering their faces, gasping for air, their sole instinct now survival. Yet, the horror persisted. It was 10:28 in the morning. The North Tower, struck first, still stood, defiantly. But the flames, unchecked, were devouring every floor. Metal groaned and buckled under the intense heat. The internal structure, the very skeleton of the building, began to fail. Then, in a moment witnessed by millions, the giant began to sway. It bent, then collapsed inwards, imploding upon itself. In 12 agonizing seconds, the Manhattan skyline was irrevocably altered. A new cloud, immense, dwarfing the surrounding buildings, darker than any night, billowed outwards. The dust infiltrated everything: lungs, eyes, streets. Manhattan transformed into a desolate gray wasteland, as if the city itself had been erased, swallowed by a hurricane of ash. An abrupt silence descended. It was not a true silence. Sirens continued their mournful wail. People cried out. Rescuers shouted commands. This was an inner silence, the profound quiet of disbelief. Words failed. Comprehension lagged behind the overwhelming reality. Survivors emched with shock. They moved through a landscape rendered alien, a testament to the fragility of human endeavors against the sudden, brutal force of destruction. The very air they breathed was thick with the remnants of what had been, a constant, choking reminder of the day the world changed forever. This cataclysm, born of malice, revealed not only the vulnerability of our structures, but the indomitable spirit that flickered even in the deepest darkness, a spirit that would ultimately rebuild, endure, and refuse to be extinguished. Red eyes, familiar faces, some holding hands, others wandering alone, disoriented. The streets of New York, moments before teeming with life, now resemble a war-torn landscape. As the city cloaks itself in ash, hope begins to extinguish. Within the collapsed towers, thousands of lives were extinguished in an instant. In less than 2 hours, America, profoundly wounded, witnessed the disappearance of a symbol of its economic power. Its military capital was struck. Citizens gaze at the sky with apprehension, questioning if the nightmare has truly ended, or if it is merely beginning. The heart of New York still beats, but it is a broken heart. The city is veiled in dust. Every street in Lower Manhattan is a labyrinth of rubble, smoke, and fleeing bodies seeking refuge. Firefighters, police officers, paramedics rush into that toxic cloud, many unaware they will not return. Hospitals fill within minutes. Ambulances arrive relentlessly, carrying the injured, the burned, the bloodied. Men and women struggle for breath, their lungs seared by the smoke. Yet, the grim truth soon becomes apparent. There are fewer injured than one might expect, because the majority did not escape the towers alive. On the streets, people attempt to aid one another. Some pour water into the eyes of strangers, blinded by the dust. Others cradle lifeless bodies, unable to let go. Gazes meet, and no words are necessary. The pain is a shared universal language. At ground zero, cries of desperation rise. Family members and friends search for loved ones, displaying hastily printed photographs, scribbled phone numbers. It is a race against emptiness, a flicker of hope dwindling with each passing hour. Television broadcasts live, and the entire world watches. From Rome to Tokyo, from London to New Delhi, people remain transfixed before their screens, unable to tear themselves away from the images. This is no longer an attack on America. It is a global wound, a trauma that belongs to everyone. Meanwhile, the sky above New York empties. All civilian flights are grounded, airports closed, the United States locked down. It is the first time in modern history that America has grounded its skies. But on the streets, time does not stop. The scent of smoke, of iron, of burning flesh permeates the air, clings to clothing, and sears itself into memory. Those who lived through this day know they will never forget it. The grief crosses the Atlantic, the Pacific, reaching every continent. Stock markets close, economies tremble, governments declare states of emergency. It is clear to all, nothing will ever be the same. Fear has entered the fabric of daily life, a chilling reminder of vulnerability in a world suddenly and irrevocably changed. The foundations of perceived security have been shaken, leaving a profound and lasting scar on the collective consciousness. Airports transformed into fortresses, security measures tightening with every passing moment. A pervasive distrust settles in the eyes of strangers. Security, once a concern, has become an all-consuming obsession. In response, the United States launches into war, first in Afghanistan, then in Iraq. This ushers in an era defined by terrorism, by the chilling absence of once familiar towers, and by the rubble that becomes a stark symbol of a world suddenly revealed as fragile. Ground Zero, a smoking crater, remains so for months. Rescuers tirelessly sift through the debris, clinging to the faint hope of miracles that rarely materialize. Ash blankets everything, streets, homes, and the hearts of a nation. Yet, from within that ash, memory begins to take root. September 11th, 2001. It is far more than just a date. It is a wound that has indelibly marked a generation, a haunting recollection that no one can erase. In those harrowing hours, the world lost its certainties, its innocence, and confronted the profound fragility of life itself. New York City rises again. America rebuilds. But nothing will ever truly be as it was before. Today, where the Twin Towers once stood, the One World Trade Center pierces the sky, a monument of glass and steel, a testament to resilience, a beacon of remembrance. Adjacent, the memorial, with its two vast reflecting pools, offers a space of water and silence, etched with the names of those lost. It is a place of profound sorrow, yes, but also of enduring hope, a memorial that continues to speak to all who pause before its endless flowing waters.